You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box, where we are not afraid of your toughest questions. So ask away. Today I have with me John Bowers, who is a therapist at Therapy Utah, and we are going to be talking about scrupulosity and OCD. John has presented to thousands of people on this topic, and we are lucky to have him. Thanks, John, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, John, in a nutshell, how would you describe scrupulosity?
Great question. So, scrupulosity is essentially moral OCD. And if we take a step back and examine like what the traits of OCD are, we can better have a better framework for what scrupulosity is. So OCD in general affects about 1% of the population, and it's essentially an anxiety disorder where an individual is triggered and then feels compulsed, urged to take an action that somehow neutralizes that anxiety. And a person can be scrupulous and not have this disorder. So some people have a perfectionism that has become so toxic that it's ruining their lives. And that could be kind of a scrupulous person, especially if you're filtering it through a moral or a religious lens. But with scrupulosity, it is essentially OCD latching onto someone's spirituality or morality. So this affects people that are religious and people who are atheist.
Because it's about morals.
Yeah. Okay. So I've treated and worked with a number of people who are former members of a religion who have felt that the only way that they could find peace was to leave the religion because of the obsessive, just tyrannical nature of this disorder. And yet they find that it's perpetrated into their transitioned life, where they're obsessed with doing the right thing in the right way, even if they're not beholden to any kind of creed or religious framework.
Interesting. So that's an interesting perspective, that it's really can go with you regardless if you are a part of a religious framework. When you said something about compulsions, why OCD is very much connected with compulsions, right? Can you explain to our listeners what you mean by compulsions and why that feels like it helps ease the anxiety of somebody with OCD?
Yeah. So with OCD, sometimes people have kind of a logical urge that comes. So if someone is very concerned about health, and something really important to note about OCD is that it tends to latch onto things that you really, really care about. So if someone's very concerned with health, a lot of times their OCD will latch onto sanitation. And so they'll feel a compulsion to wash their hands, or to wash their hands a second or third time to make sure they did it the right way and did it enough. And that compulsion tells their brain that they're okay. And the anxiety has been building up to the point where they feel like they have to do something, and it's neutralized for a temporary period of time.
Which is, when you say that, it makes me think there's a reason why it feels so big, because these are things that mean a lot to the people, right? So if you said, okay, cleanliness means a lot to these people, and so what are they going to do? Washing their hands it gets to be an obsession for them, right? So really washing hands or doing something that helps ease that burden or that angst, and in an effort to make it diffuse it a little bit, right? Does it work? So if I have that obsession, in fact, as you're talking about it, I'm laughing because I'm thinking I have a little bit of cleanliness. I feel like OCD, and maybe not cleanliness, but germs. When I touch something, if I shake your hand on my right hand, I will remember that hand has been shook by you until it has been washed. And when it's washed,